Welcome back, everyone, to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and with me is Joshua, our alchemist. And what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about ATP, and we're going to be talking about your mitochondria. Now, understand something, okay? Your mitochondria are the powerhouse, the energy generators of every cell. And understand something, whether you believe this or not, do you know why you have chronic fatigue? Well, your mitochondria are getting damaged. They're getting exhausted because they're not getting what they need. Do you know what is the major cause of cancer? Well, mitochondrial damage. That's right. And that's scientifically proven. So you can go and do your own research, and then you can come up with the same conclusion that we did, is that your mitochondria, okay, hold the key to not just energy, but setting yourself free from disease and illness. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with Joshua. Right, Joshua?
Yes.
So let's kick this thing off. And what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about your ATP. Joshua, so...
Well, ATP is called the energy molecule of life. And all living things require ATP, all cells require ATP to function. And so, as you were saying, when you have a dysfunctional ATP in the mitochondria, then you have chronic fatigue. The most amazing thing is that Dr. George Merkle discovered a way to extract ATP, the ATP molecule, from substances that have a higher percentage.
Wait, before we go any further, though, who is Dr. George Merkle?
Dr. George Merkle did the very first successful cold fusion experiment in 1967 for the Department of Energy and 30 executives. He actually went on national television and announced in the 60s that was the end of the energy crisis. He did that because he figured out the free energy molecule in all living things. George was by accident discovered a transducer he was growing diamonds, and he added nitrogen to bring the luster in the diamond, and he created a resonance, and that evolved into the free energy. From that discovery, the ATP, and then being able to growing the ATP was George's greatest discovery and greatest gift to humanity, being able to extract ATP, and in the presence of sunlight, it's grown in clear Pyrex tubes, fruit juices, tea, honey, coffee, all natural items. And in the presence of sunlight, the sun turns it into the building blocks of life. Dr. George Merkle gave us the gift of the ATP. And he...
One second. How did he give us the gift of the ATP, though?
Well, the first thing that George did was a cold fusion experiment, the successful cold fusion experiment. He did that as a result of figuring out the free energy molecule in all living things, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And so then George figured out a way of extracting the ATP molecule and GTP molecule from substances that have a higher percentage. Fruit juices, tea, honey, coffee, in clear Pyrex tubes in the desert, distilled from spring to fall like a crop, and in the presence of sunlight.
So if you don't mind, yeah, because I've heard many people say that he was the Einstein of food medicine. So what he would do he would get these round Pyrex tubes, right? And then they would be, how tall were they?
They're 10 feet tall and 6 inches in diameter. And
then he would take all of the fruit, the tea, the honey.
Yeah, formula that he mixed together.
It was a specific formula that he would mix in there, and then he would put those in the sunlight, like in a more of desert.
In a desert type condition.
Yeah.
Because he needed the conductivity, and so the desert is higher in the conductivity.
And conductivity being sun, mainly, or no?
Well, it's being sun, but they also needed
the temperature,
low humidity.
Okay,
all right. High temperature, low humidity,
Good.
Which is where your conductivity is.
Okay.
He would distill a crop from spring till fall, and in the presence of sunlight, the life crystals would turn into ATP and GTP in the presence of sun, artificial photosynthesis. And in the presence of sunlight, it would start to turn to alcohol, but ultraviolet rays would stop it from turning to alcohol, and that's how he would pull out the free energy
Right.
molecules.
Right.
So you no longer have any of those substances at the end of the season of fruit juices, tea, honey, coffee. You have ATP, GTP, and the 5-carbon sugars.
Now, the 5-carbon sugar is something that's really important because
Yes.
it bypasses the Krebs cycle, and that's why when we do, you know what, we have done advanced water fasting, we call it, where we use ATP, we use Ormus minerals, and we also use fulvic. And these three actual energy medicine products will actually not turn on the digestive tract. So we're able to actually put people on really long water fasts with structured water, and they do a few other things, but we're able to accomplish things that are so amazing. Like, in a 12-day water fast that we're doing, it could release the same amount of stem cells as somebody who paid $125,000 for stem cell therapy. So when we were able to actually use the life crystals to create the ATP to help the mitochondria repair and create all that energy, we were able to get people so far. I've had people on my water fast go as far as 86 days. 86 days.
Wow.
Yeah, 86 days. And we're talking about people that lost a lot of weight, because we know that people gain weight, scar tissue, displaced calcium, crystallization, and fat is all caused from inflammation. So that helped us to be able to take people that people said, oh, you just go home, there's nothing we can do for you, or you were going to have surgery. And between our Wolfe Non-Surgical and using his formulas, the ATP, the pineal, or the divine vine, we were able to take people as long as over 80 days. But go ahead, talk about George now.
Okay, the most amazing thing that George also had a very sophisticated microscope. And underneath the microscope, the life crystals are pyramidal in shape. So the life crystals are capturing what he called free energy scrolls. And the 5-carbon sugars work as the storage battery. And it would convert the 5-carbon sugars into really identical to our DNA.
So the 5-carbon sugars would kind of mimic our DNA, and the 5-carbon sugars would have energy and information stored within them that they would help to transmit and translate into the mitochondria.
Yes, and the life crystals being a pyramid in shape. Okay,
Yeah.
They bring the light. It's like a laser. Okay, regular light is all over the place, and the laser brings it in focus. Well, the life crystal brings it into focus and what's called coherent light.
Well, that's what they use in a laser too, is they'll use a crystal so that they can concentrate the light and to actually make it, that's what it's called, laser. So
the life crystals brings the light into coherence. In that, all the things that the life crystal touches, like in the mitochondria in your cell, it brings them into that coherence, which moves over into what George called superlattice. And when you have things aligned, molecules aligned instead of being all helter and skelter, then you have superconductivity.
okay, so if you can for 1 second, Joshua. So superlattice might be like where you have all these people, but then like they do in the army, they're all in step together.
Yep.
Okay, so they're all in step together and they're synced. They've all become one. So what it creates is unification.
Yes, it brings it up, you're able to move up into superconductivity, so higher frequency, higher energy. And that's really the secret of the life crystals, is raising your energy level. Because the mitochondria in your cells will completely move into that lockstep.
Right. And that's what it's called, lockstep, when everything becomes unified. And when it becomes unified, then it becomes, the information is like a laser. Boom. It's not displaced and lost, right?
Right.
Because we lose a lot of our energy, right? Yeah.
Right. Now George went a step further with this, in that he created a refined drink into an injectable. And with that injectable...
So he refined the actual life crystal ATP.
Yes, the life crystal, the ATP, GTP, he refined into an injectable.
Oh, 1 second. Can we backtrack just for everybody out there? What's the difference between ATP and GTP?
Well, they're both considered energy molecules.
Okay.
The ATP, as far as the scientific community is concerned, they know it as the energy molecule of life. And when you put the ATP and GTP together and the 5 carbon sugars, you have the ultimate cell food.
Right, right.
It's like everything that you eat is turned into a little bit of ATP, which is where you get your energy.
Right.
And if you eat meat, okay, all the green veggies that you eat, which contain ATP, you have to burn that up to process the meat, because the meat doesn't have any ATP.
ATP. Yeah, because you can't start off with something dead and expect you're going to create any ATP, because there's no life form in it. So
well,
it's all about
it's been already expent by
That's right.
by the animal, and so the ATP has the potential to take us beyond the Krebs cycle, and so we don't have to race our motor, by stuffing stuff in. We can idle it, and we can live to 150, 200 years if we have the right cell food, and that's really the gift that George gave us with the life crystals, the life crystal drink, which he called the crude form of the life crystals. He said you can get the same results with the life crystal drink. It takes longer, but what he did in vitro with the refined injectable that he had was that he was able to regrow all the organs in the body, including brain cells. And then he thought,
think about that one, everyone. So by using this product, he could do that.
Yes, in vitro.
In vitro.
Just with the transfer RNA, he was able to regrow all the organs, the heart, lung, even including brain cells.
All because of our life crystal ATP.
So then he figured, well, if I can do that in vitro, if I put that into my body, it ought to do the same thing.
And before we go any further, I want everybody to understand something. Everything that you eat and drink leaves the body, the physical part. The only thing that stays behind is the frequency. So the higher the frequency of anything that you take into the body, it's going to bring you up to a higher frequency. And understand something. If you were to maintain that high frequency, you would not have a dis-ease, because you have a dis-ease when your frequency drops. And remember something, everything happens on the cellular level. Oh, no, it doesn't. It happens on the mitochondrial level. Everybody would say the cellular level, but it's not. It happens in the power plant, which is the mitochondria, right? So go ahead, talk about what you were talking about.
So with the understanding that the life crystals rebuilds and regrows everything in your body. The assimilation was a problem for George, because the life crystals is a large molecule. So like he said, you could get the same results, but it would take longer. Now, when we added the fulvic acid to the life crystals, it brought it up.
Hold on 1 second. Let me just show you. So this is the ATP we're talking about, okay? And it also comes as Divine Vine, where the ATP is really like, it's the motor for the mitochondria. When you want energy, you want to bring your health back. This Divine Vine has ATP, but it works on the thyroid hormonal balance, okay? And then this, we only have 3 different ones. And then this one here is the pineal, which the pineal gland, the brain. But understand, they all work on the brain, don't they? They all work on the body, but this is more directed towards the brain, whereas the Divine Vine was directed towards the thyroid hormonal problems. And then ATP is the one you want to give people when you want to give them that energy to make it through fastings. You want to give them this for energy when they don't have the energy to heal anymore. Because there's the problem. When you are ill, you don't have energy. And what's it take to get from ill to being well? Energy. So how can you recharge, repair your mitochondria? Go ahead.
Energy and frequency. And as we were just talking about the frequency, and today we have a new scare going on with everybody, this COVID virus. Well, if your frequency is up here and the virus is down here, it can't even get to you. And so it is about raising your frequencies and having your cells function at the optimum level.
Yeah, and if I can say this, just to distract a little bit, is everybody's worried about that, and that's not the real worry. The worry is the 5G that actually creates, you've got 2 oxygen molecules with O2, and they share electrons, And what 5G does, because it's 60 gigahertz, it causes the electrons to spin too rapidly, okay? And what happens when you take in that oxygen, your hemoglobin can't pick up the oxygen because of those electrons spinning because of the 60 gigahertz. And I'll tell you right now, it's all about delivering and having enough energy in the cells to be able to work against things like this, to work against the blue light, EMF that we have, to anything that is attacking the body, whether it be a microbe or whether it be an invisible frequency. We're always trying to bring up and change the terrain down to the mitochondrial level and bring up the vibration, because if your vibration's high enough, anything lower can't touch you.
Speaking of the mitochondria, that's the second thing that George did in vitro in his lab, was that he took some of his blood and he added life crystals to it. And as he increased the strength of the life crystals, he watched his mitochondria evolve up into what he called the chondriana, which he said was our ancient ancestors. And he did the same thing with the lymphocytes. He was able to create the chondriana from the lymphocytes. And both of those, when he weakened the solution, they de-evolved back down into the mitochondria, proving that those are part of us. They're our ancestors. If we raise the frequency, boom, they come in.
So if I could, again, guess what? What we see in society right now is everybody being dumbed down through medication, through surgery, through the foods we eat, through the EMF, through the blue light. I mean, everything. People are being dumbed down. And when you get dumbed down, you become low vibrational. I mean, you can't even think straight. Less digest your food, less have enough energy to make love, or enough energy for clear thought, or to even enjoy your life. So everything is needed. Everything needs energy if we're going to reach joy state.
And the dumbing down has to do with your pineal gland, number one. And the pineal gland is called the seat of the soul. And if you get fluoride in your pineal, they've done lots of autopsies. You can go online and watch the pictures of people's calcified pineal glands. And so once your pineal gland is calcified, you're like cut off from your soul. And so this product here, the pineal, was specifically designed to clear out the fluoride and reconnect you with your soul. And we've actually had a number of testimonies from people that they let go of their addictions doing the pineal. And the reason being is that your soul doesn't get addicted, only your ego. And if you're cut off from your soul, then the addictions, and then the ego gets control of your body vehicle and has a heyday. So you want to get that tune in, that your own truth. And the only way you can get your own truth is connected to your soul. Your soul will give you the truth. And that's what's going on with the world out here today. Like why we have so many psychopaths is those people have been cut off from the connection to your soul. The soul is your consciousness.
Right. And talking about that, even soul, let's talk about the heart. George had a lot of heart problems, didn't he?
Oh, yes. He had 3 open heart surgeries, and as he was developing the life crystals, he had a 4th heart attack, and they rushed him into the hospital, and when he found himself in there, he woke up and he started pulling the things out of his arms and said he was leaving, and he fired the best doctor in the United States in the heart department, and the guy said, "Oh, you'll die on the way home." Well, George not only didn't die, but he went home and kept doing the life crystals, and he rebuilt his heart, and that was documented, because he also developed a cancer that he cured, but he couldn't detox all of the residue. But it was no longer a hazard.
He no longer had the cancer, but the problem is when you're trying to heal from anything, you have to make sure that you open all portals to make sure that you get rid of the waste product that the dis-ease built up. which is crystallization. It can be trapped emotion, and it's toxins. Just like I was saying earlier, fat cells, they're there to store inflammation and toxins. That's why we have them. The fatter you are, the more fat you have, the more you have of that. But the worst toxins that we have are stored in scar tissue. And that's why today people are filled with scar tissue. Like, Grandpa, why are you so stiff? Why do you think everybody's having surgeries? Did you know Americans and Canadians in our lifetime, we have 9.2 surgeries for the majority of the population in a lifetime. 9.2 surgeries. So it's all about the scar tissue. And the reason why we're gaining so much scar tissue is because our mitochondria are getting damaged and the inflammation is running rampant. And with inflammation, you get scar tissue formation, displaced calcium, and crystallization. So a surgeon only knows surgery. A doctor only knows drugs. But understand something. We forgot that the body can heal. And so what we've done is we take nature when we're using ATP, we harness the best of nature, harness the highest frequency, harness the most concentrated of light, because that's why you can't live without the sun. And that's why we eat that's why I say don't become a vegetarian, become a whole plantarian, because a whole plant-based diet has more trapped sunlight in it than anything else, like structured water. It has more sunlight than anything else. So what we look for is what has the most concentration of energy, what has the most concentration of sunlight, and that would be life crystals. There.
Yes. And so the other issue that George brought up was the immune system and stem cell production. And he discovered that when he gave life crystals to people and an injection of the life crystals, it would increase the sperm count from 200 to 300%. Your stem cells are also produced from your sex cells, and so increasing your immunity is increasing all of the stem cell production.
And we already know that when we use the ATP or we use the Divine Vine, when we're doing our advanced water fasting and doing the non-surgical to help to pull the scar tissue apart in the pelvic region of women and men, and then doing the advanced water fasting and using the life crystals, we've had so many women that were infertile become fertile within weeks. No, I'm talking about weeks. We're talking about men that have sperm counts so low to turn around within weeks, 6 weeks to 2 months, they're turned right around. So the reality is this, you're not stuck with what you have unless you limit your beliefs.
And it's understanding really what increases your stem cell production and what cancels it out. And unfortunately, antibiotics stops the stem cell production temporarily, and the more shots of antibiotics that you get, you end up with no immune system, and you have to get shots of antibiotics. My daughter was my teacher in there. In the first 3.5 years of her life, she was to the doctor 85 times. I'd always been healthy, but I was watching my wife and my daughter, and all of a sudden I was like, why are you guys always sick? And I didn't understand anything about this at this point, but I discovered homeopathy at that point, and got my daughter to a homeopathic doctor, and she went from being the sickest kid to being the healthiest kid, but it was a result of the antibiotics of 85 times. Every time they went to the doctor, they were getting antibiotics. So virtually she had no immune system left, and then turned around to having a very strong. So you can correct it. It's just a matter of understanding that the antibiotics will make you addicted to antibiotics because it stops your stem cell production. And so the more of that you have, the less immune system that you're going to have. And it can be recovered, and that's what these products are about. Doing the life crystals in this form will increase your stem cell production, and so that increases your immunity. and understanding the immunity. If you have allergies, that's a sign of your immune system being broken down.
Because you will find that when your mitochondria aren't working properly, not making enough ATP, then what you're going to find is that you become allergic to life. That's, just regular things that would never bother you that your body could handle, whether it be something you eat, something you drink, or something you breathe in. And so people become more allergic, and that's why people go for all these testings, even natural allergy testing. I don't believe in it. I believe that what we need to do is focus on bringing up the frequency, bringing up the energy of that person, and we'll get them back to where they are. People will say, well, I'm allergic to eggs, or I'm allergic to this food or this food. And I'll go, it's not true. You just have a corrupted mitochondria. That's what's going on. And so, and we prove that all the time, that an allergy is just a deficient immune system due to your mitochondria being damaged.
Oh, and stem cell production.
Yes.
Because from the stem cells produce immature B cells that go to the lymph and are matured in the lymph, and then they turn into plasma cells, antibody emitting plasma cells, and so in there that stops any allergies, any invasion of viruses, any of that. But if you don't have that production, you don't have basically an immune system. So the more deprived your immune system is, the more susceptible you are to allergies and colds and flus. And I know, I mean, I got nuked in 2002, depleted uranium smoke outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, with the burnt Los Alamos labs down, and I lost my immune system. And every fall when it would come around to the flu season, I would have my homeopaths, I would have my vitamin C's, my everything that I would take to try and strengthen myself through it. But I don't think about that anymore. I don't even take vitamins. The only thing I do is I take our products, and I never think about getting sick. This big freak out that's going down over the COVID, if you have humic acid in your system, it alone, separate from your what the life crystals will do to strengthen yourself, this works on its own to put a coating on viruses' receptor sites.
These are the two products. This being the one I showed you was the humic acid, and this is a blend of humic and fulvic that will do what he just said, but it also works on the intestines to really bring back the bacteria. Because I'll tell you right now, and I know we're off track a little bit about the ATP, but I just want to say this, that you can take all the good bacteria you want, but start taking this type of humic fulvic that we've created. And understand something, not all humic fulvic are the same. Only 2% of the actual humic and fulvic out there is made mechanically and physically, and the other 98% is actually made chemically. So it's always something, it's called buyer beware.
Yes.
But back to the ATP. So this, we do have, as far as we know, there could be someone else that has some other product, because we don't know everything. But as far as we know, this is the only organic ATP in the world, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And like I say, because they've made, you can buy a chemical ATP, and I think it's like $1,000 a gram or something like that. It's very, very expensive, and it's not the same thing. Like I say, because the life crystals, they bring things into coherence. So there's something all different that's happening with the ATP in the life crystals than the ATP. It's like chemically made fulvic and naturally extracted fulvic. You get a totally different product. You have different molecules.
Absolutely.
In that, and in this, because the life crystals works as a like I say, to bring things into coherence. It raises your frequencies, and then rebuilds and restores your whole immune system. And so when you use it in combination with, we're going to get into this a little bit later here on the humic and the fulvic acid. that's like working on its own. It has it, and so when you take that and then you do the life crystals together, well, you've moved up into a whole nother realm of protection and consciousness and frequency. And so your frequency is up here, like I say, and these viruses are down here. You just aren't going to get the virus.
Yeah, everything lines up. Your body is like a magnet, and you can't attract what you're not. You'll only attract what you are. And if you take a look at a fast-moving river, it's oxygenated, it's healthy, it's not growing all kinds of algae. It doesn't have mosquitoes and other bugs there because things aren't stagnant. So the reality is everything is vibration, and your body's vibration. You don't have to worry about a virus, And I want you to understand something. I just want to leave this with you. Go back as far as you want, at least for the last 40 years, and you'll find out that every second year, at least, there's a new virus or a new bacteria that's going to end life as we know it. That's going to take everybody down. And understand something, if you do your homework, you'll find out that most times that we have these infections that come along, they take who? They take the older people that are not well, and they'll take the younger people that are not well. So depending on the type of lifestyle you have, depending on the type of medication, how toxic that medication is, how acidic it is, it will create an environment. And understand, I don't worry if a virus comes into my body. Understand that. Because guess what? You're bigger than this. So I'm not telling you to just not do anything, but you know how we talk about the perfect day? I always talk about the perfect day. Just use any type of scare that goes on in this world to motivate you to love your body well, to start taking gentle, baby, loving steps, but take personal action and just love the vehicle that you've been given. And that's the reality. So take a look at, send us an email to quickstart@docofdetox.com, and we'll send you 7 empowering steps, okay, that you can start diving into and learn about your physical, your emotional body. And if you want to learn more about these products, go to my library and go to the Humic Fulvic Guide, okay, and you'll see in the beginning we talk about ATP and life crystals, and get yourself educated. You know what? It's like this, okay? If you don't know how to treat yourself, you're going to end up getting mistreated. The best practitioner is the person that learns that self-care is the only health care. What would you like to leave with people?
Well, because the other thing on the life crystals is because the life crystals regrows brain cells.
Yes.
Okay, is that as long as you're doing the life crystals, it will regrow your brain cells and increase your intelligence, increase your awareness.
Now understand, I know that that's quite a statement, but just understand something. Look up George Merkle, Vancouver
lectures,
and you'll understand something that you may not have heard of him before, but like I said, he was known as the Einstein of food medicine. And everything that we've told you today, he actually proved that in laboratory tests and studies, didn't he?
Yes, and we started in on the mitochondria and the chondriana.
Yeah.
Okay, and in there, George gave us the greatest gift in the discovery. He discovered the chondriana as a result of creating the life crystals. And from the life crystals, because he did the experiment with his blood and raised the energy level and watched the mitochondria evolve into the chondriana and then go back to if he lowered it, de-evolve back into the mitochondria, he was able to follow evolution. And the understanding that our chondriana, he discovered that chondriana are particular to mammals. And so at a certain point, he was actually working with the San Diego Zoo in preserving extinct species. And he proved in there that the mitochondria in mammals can be brought back to life, and that we've had that chondriana for millions of years. And so it blows Darwin's theory of evolution completely out of the park. And with that understanding, you have to understand that you have a divine intelligence. We come from divine intelligence. We don't come from the apes. And your cells, this is what George discovered in the chondriana, is that the chondriana was super intelligent. And that when he was able to regrow it and inject it into people's bodies, that in the case of cancer, it would go right to the roots of the cancer and eat the roots out first and kill it. And that's what happened with his cancer. He killed his cancer, but some of the stuff he was trying to detox, he had them open him up and clean it out. Well, when they opened him up, they took a look at his heart and they said, "George, you've rebuilt your heart." And so that was documented in a surgery. And so the chondriana are our teacher, because they are super intelligent. And so George started culturing these chondrianas for people with AIDS and cancer, and then they evolved it up into just taking the person's blood out of their body and adding the life crystals to it and creating the person's own chondriana, putting it back in their body. And he was doing this with about 40 clinics around the world, and they were having amazing results.
And someday that may return, but right now, guess what? Right now, this is it. ATP. All you do is you take this bottle, you pour it into the ATP 3 times like this, and you're off and running. We've got the ATP, we've got the Divine Vine. We are the Divine Vine again. Hormonal balance, thyroid. They all work on the brain as well, correct?
Yep.
And the pineal gland, and really focusing on the brain, and they all generate ATP. Right, Joshua?
Yes. And the thing in there that George said was that, even though he was able to do these advanced experiments with an injectable that he created, he said you can get the same results with the crude form of the life crystals, which was the drink.
Yeah.
And that's what we've had, but we've moved it up into greater assimilation with the fulvic.
By using our special patented fulvic, okay, we've been able to actually increase the absorption right down into the cellular level to actually give the mitochondria what they need and to give it that extra shot, that extra boost.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
And so the potential for you to gain control of your body and of your immune system is in these products, in the life crystals in particular.
And I'll state it again. Every disease, there's mitochondrial damage. Okay, and we know that cancer is mitochondrial damage, but every autoimmune disease is mitochondrial damage. And we know that our body is intelligent when we give it the right things to turn on that intelligence, because we were built with that innate intelligence. And I'm going to tell you, since 1910, that's when the medical system really came to be in the pharmaceutical system. And they have successfully in 1 year, in 100 years, dumbed us down to the point that we forgot about what created us and that we have the power to heal. I want to thank you for joining me on this show today on ATP and immunity. But please watch the next show that we will be bringing. And also, that will be on all the humic and fulvic products, because you really need to get a good understanding on how fulvic is the greatest chelator and how humic can encapsulate and trap those microorganisms that everybody's freaking out about. Okay, and understand this, that make sure that you join us for our ATP immunity Q&A that will be followed up after this show. So check Facebook, check docofdetoxshow.com, and make sure that you put all your questions below, okay, after today's show or during it. Or you can send in your questions live when we do our live Q&A, okay, because we're going to be following up with a Q&A, because this show, we know that people are going to have questions. Right, Joshua?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, the understanding of your immune system and the understanding that you can increase it and you can decrease the strength of it, and understanding the things that increase it and decrease it come down to your lifestyle. And
that's why we need to create the perfect day.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
So when you have the perfect day, and then you include like the
Life Crystal
the life
products.
crystals are a standalone product in increasing your immune system.
They
increasing
supercharge
your
everything else you do in life.
increasing your intelligence. You know, I come back to the very first product that we created was the Divine Vine, and the saying that I came up with, because I had severe Alzheimer's from the depleted uranium exposure to the point that I couldn't hardly hold a conversation. And when I created the Divine Vine, I came up with a saying that you don't know where you've been until you come back. So as you get on these products, like I say, it's documented to regrow brain cells, and so just doing the drink will start to rebuild your brain and regrow your brain, and as that happens, then you get a greater understanding of everything that we're talking about. And
it's called enlightenment, and that's because we're bringing in the most powerful form of light. So everybody, I want to thank you for joining us, and just know at the end of today's show, we will have the date and the time of the ATP Immunity Q&A. I want to thank you, Joshua, for joining us again, and we'll see you on the Q&A. So put your questions down below, or you can actually text them in live, and we'll be answering all your questions. God bless, and know that you have the power to heal. Do not let anyone take that away from you. 3, 2, 1, I know you got this. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.